This is Washington Watch with Tony Perkins, your daily voice in Washington, D.C. on issues of faith, family, and freedom. And now, here's your host, Family Research Council President, Tony Perkins.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Washington Watch, your source for what's really happening in our nation's capital. Thanks so much for joining us and making us a part of your afternoon. But here's one of my favorite segments. I talk about this quite frequently as I travel, and people have kind of a one-dimensional view of Congress, and I don't fault that at all, because if you get your information just from the media, you tend to see all the wrong people. But there are a number of men and women who are here in Washington, D.C., who love the Lord, who are here for the right reasons, doing the right things in the right way. And what we want to do is give you an opportunity to get to know them a little bit better. As I have said, we probably have the most conservative Congress in modern time. Now, not always reflected necessarily in the leadership or what we see on TV, but we've got a lot of great people here, and one of them is joining me today. Members of Congress, like the rest of society, come from a wide range of backgrounds, and my next guest certainly has a little different background. Congressman Steve Fincher is a managing partner in Fincher Farms, a seventh-generation West Tennessee-based agribusiness. He has been in agribusiness his entire life and lives in the Frog Jump community of Crockett County, Tennessee. Now, that's reaching way back there. At the age of 9, he joined the Southern Gospel Music Singing Ministry, started by his family over 60 years ago. And in a minute, I'm going to break out my banjo. But until then, welcome with me Congressman Steve Fincher, serving his second term representing Tennessee's 8th Congressional District. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you, Tony. Appreciate you having me on today.
Well, I would have you sing a tune, but let's talk a little. Let's get some basics down first here. Let our listeners in on a little bit about Stephen and why you ran for Congress to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. We've lived in, as you said a few minutes ago, in our community, about 400 people in West Tennessee. Historically, Davy Crockett's seat is the seat that I have, so a lot of history, but never dreamed about serving in public office. And I guess back in June of 2009, I had a friend of mine to call me one day. We still farm several acres, and I still love farming. I love home. I have a wife and 3 children that I've been blessed to have been given, and was asked to run for Congress against a 24-year incumbent in a seat that's never had a Republican. I'm the first Republican to hold the seat, and after a few minutes now, you have to take it. I was out in the middle of a cotton field on one of our sprayers, our John Deere big sprayers, and I hung the phone up on my buddy because I thought it was so absurd that he would ask that to me to run for Congress. But we still sing gospel music, Southern gospel music every weekend. We had a couple of concerts this weekend back home in the district, and we produce our own music. My family's my dad, my uncle, my cousin, myself. We're 4-part harmony style music, but we know a lot of people, and my friend thought that I would have a chance. I'm a business person, but again, had no desire at all. He asked me back in June of 2009, we remember, this was before the big wave started. This was early on, and I met with a couple of gentlemen in Jackson, Tennessee, which is not far from where I live, and I told the gentleman at the meeting that day, I said, guys, I'm honored you would think of me, but I'm not going to do this. I love farming, I love home, and I don't want to go off to Washington. And I did tell them that day, I said, I'll pray about this. I said, but I'll call you, don't you call me. And I go home to my wife, I'll never forget it, and she's cooking dinner, and we've been married 21 years. And I walk in and tell her that I had been asked to run for Congress, and she turns and looks at me, and she says, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. And, as wives can do a lot of times, they put us in our place. And I thought she was going to say that I would win and do well, but she told me she would divorce me if I did it. And we talked a few minutes, and I told her that we should just pray about this, that for some reason this had been placed in front of us. And about a week later, she came in my office one night. I was doing our budgets for our farming operation, and she just began to cry and weep and said she felt that we had to do this, and we started down a journey that ended up here. And God has a plan, and he has a purpose for all of us. And I used to pray that he wouldn't send me to a foreign a country in a mission field, so I'm in Washington.
Here you are.
I'm in Washington, so that's kind of the long and short.
Well, I know when I said something to my wife about running, she was actually all for it. She just said, don't ever ask me to make a speech.
Right.
And then she ended up making speeches and did better at that than I did. Frog jump. It reminds me. My mother was born in Kentucky in a place called Possum Trot. So
I know where Possum Trot is actually.
So a little small community. A lot of stuff come out of those small communities. Hey, as you're now in your second session of Congress, second term. What when you first came here, as you in business, and I completely understand what you're saying about just being content where you are, doing what you're doing, but really responding more to the need. As you came here, what was the thing that most surprised you about Washington, D.C. and Congress?
Oh, me. Tony, I'm for term limits and didn't take the government health insurance or the retirement program. I plan to go back home to my family and my district and to finish my farming my career. I guess the saddest thing that I see is we're so broken as a country, and our basic core principles of the Constitution and the Bible and our founding beliefs of what our founding fathers, what they intended for this great country to be. And we're throwing all of those things away, and we're saying that we need a new path and a new way and a new start. And I'm just scratching my head thinking, if you forget the past, how are you going to know how to go forward?
Yeah.
And I'm very frustrated. And I mean, I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I've spent in the last 3 years since I've been here, wrestling with the decisions and to make the right decision for the people and the country. But if we don't put God back where he belongs, we're not going to fix this problem, Tony.
I could not agree with you more. As I often say when I'm speaking out across the country, is that the problem with America at its heart is not
7 years old. I've been a Christian and all of my life, but this is not rocket science. And if we don't get our priorities straight, if we don't, the politics, they do seem to take over sometimes, Tony. But we have to be able to talk to people about issues, gay marriage, abortion, other things, and we have to be able to not be combative, but also speak the truth, but speak what Jesus wants us to say and not condemn.
Yeah.
And that's very, very, that's a fine line we have to walk.
It is a challenge, and I think the best example I've seen is when Jesus encounters the woman at the well.
Yep.
He doesn't compromise the truth. It doesn't bring condemnation, but he brings conviction.
That's right.
That ends up captivating the entire community there. You're listening to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. Thanks so much for joining us. Congressman Stephen Fincher of the 8th Congressional District of Tennessee is joining us in his second term in Congress. If you'd like more information, you can. We've got a link to his website on our website, tonyperkins.com. Find out more about him and what he's working on in Congress. And by the way, let me ask you that, Congressman. What's top priority for you? What are some of the issues that you're working on here in Congress?
Well, we serve on the banking committee, the financial services committee, and the ag committee, agricultural committee, and we're dealing with issues with Dodd-Frank and the flow of capital to the country and this system of capitalism that we have. Capital is king, making sure that people have the access to capital that they need to grow and their business and be successful. That should be a good thing in America, that people succeed and become owners of their businesses. Farm bill, that's something we're working on. From the Affordable Care Act to balancing the budget to the debt limit. I mean, we have so many issues that we're trying to fix. But making legislation, some have said it's like making sausage. It's messy, but we have to continue to go forward, not compromise our core principles, but also understand that I don't get everything I want at home. When I'm at home, I'm sure not going to get everything I want in Washington, but we have to be able to work together to some extent. But there's only so far you can go without compromising your core principles. And right. Again, it becomes frustrating, but my district, when I go home, they didn't send me up here to compromise what we hold dear back in West Tennessee.
Well, Congressman Fincher, you talk about those things that we can't compromise on. I do think there are some non-negotiables, some things we just cannot move away from. And one that is really kind of becoming very pressing, and it's going to be a very real problem here very soon, is the issue of conscience protections, religious freedom that is seen in this Obamacare mandate that takes full effect, I believe, the 1st of August, regarding religious organizations and businesses being forced to provide coverage for abortifacients and sterilizations, something that runs counter to the religious convictions of many, many Americans.
Well, Tony, here's my biggest problem. Well, one of the problems I guess I have with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare is what's happening here is we're losing our freedom. Mm-hmm. We're allowing the federal government to come in and tell us how to do it, what to eat, what to take, and the next thing you know, it will be what toothpaste to use. And I know people, they may think that this sounds radical, but I'm here now. I get to watch what's happening, and for some odd reason, the people in Washington think they're the only ones smart enough to make these decisions, which is just ridiculous. And the scary part is as long as the right people are in the right places, too much government or burning the Constitution doesn't seem to be that big a deal for some folks. But when you have the wrong people in the wrong places, when you do away with the Bible and the Constitution and our guiding documents, it becomes a very serious deal. And that's what's happening here. We lost so much freedom the day the Supreme Court ruled that this was a tax, and that we can stop it. We have to continue to try to repeal it and try to stop it because of what is happening. You know, now with tax reform, the president is talking about charitable donations is right on the table. I mean, do people understand what that will do to our nonprofits and our churches?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The president is grasping for every dollar he can, even though we're spending $1 trillion that we don't have. He still wants more. You're listening to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. Congressman Stephen Fincher, 8th Congressional District of Tennessee, joins us. It's one of these interviews I just love to do, just kind of letting you get to know some of the good guys and gals that are on Capitol Hill. Before we run out of time, Congressman, one question you brought up about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and the repeal. Is there still the will, the intensity among your Republican colleagues to repeal that?
I think so, Tony. We are struggling with how do we communicate with the American people that this is a bad bill of goods. They were sold something that is not true, and when the full impacts of the Affordable Care Act of Obamacare really trickle down and hit the middle class, it's not free. It's not just going to be an open door where nobody pays and everybody's taken care of, that your freedoms are going to be taken. There's going to be accountability. You will be taxed. You will be fined. This is going to break the country, the financial means that we have as a country. And we are just as committed to trying to end this as we ever were. But at the same time, the American people have got to say, look, this isn't good, and too much government, and that's what's happening in Washington, isn't the answer. And I can tell you that I'm here. I know for certain that's not true. But no, we have the will to win here, and we're going to continue to fight.
Well, I hope that's true. And let me ask you this, because I do know that is true among a core group of conservatives who serve here on Capitol Hill. How can the average citizen out there listening to this, concerned about the direction of the country, how can they help?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. When they go to our websites, when they call our telephones in the district and in Washington, it doesn't go unnoticed. When they send us letters to let us know they're praying for us, I can't tell you how comforting it is when I'm in gospel concerts, when people come up and they tell me they're praying for me and praying for guidance and wisdom and that we do the right thing. Those things matter, and being on our knees as a country is what it's going to take to get the people in line up here. But just staying focused, don't give up. Be active. If you support people, be active. If you don't support them, be active. And that's how we get the message.
Stephen, before we go, how can our listeners pray for you and your family?
Well, just I tell folks all the time, pray that I will be a willing vessel and just be His tool and not put myself get myself in the wrong place. That wisdom and discernment and obedience. Obedience, I think, is what's key. And it's tough to be obedient. Sometimes I want to quit and go back home and just be selfish and get back on the tractor, Tony. But this is bigger than me, and he has a purpose for all of us. Just pray for those things.
I laugh, chuckle, because that's what I tell some of my team. I have a tractor. I don't have as many acres as you. I'm not a farmer. I got about 20 acres, and my therapy on the weekends is getting on the tractor.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so, mine too.
I understand it 100%. Congressman Stephen Fincher, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you for your service to our country.
God bless you. Thank you for having me.